All right, now I will call the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. It's a meeting of the Region 12 Board of Education. Do you want to call the roll? Yes.
All right. Joe. Here. John. Here. Greg.
Here.
Jim. Here. Alex.
Here.
Justin.
Here.
Jen.
Here.
I'm here. Mike.
Here.
Julie.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
And Mary.
Here.
All right, very good. The next item on our, one thing I would like to do is I would like to modify the agenda to move up item H to between item E and F. Can we do that? Is there a second?
Second.
Anyone opposed? We'll do it by consent. Very good. Now we'll move on to public comment on agenda items. I would just like to remind everyone that normally at these meetings, when we have public comment, I know that there's some people with that want to express some opinions and some views tonight, and we generally on these things try to we do not have exchange between board members and people who comment. So if you have a comment, it should be in the nature of a comment, not in the nature of asking questions, because the board will not answer them. We don't do that. This is an opportunity for you to voice your opinion on matters that are on the board agenda. Also, we have to give due consideration for the fact that we have a fairly long agenda. Normally, we limit these to 3 minutes, but I think I just would appreciate it if people would be as concise as you can. And if you want to say the same thing as the previous person, it has more impact if you say exactly what they said. That's what I want to say too, as opposed to just repeating everything. But it's up to you. And we definitely want to hear what you have to say. That's the reason we do this. Elsewise, we don't know what people in the community is on their minds. So I will ask, I don't know, is there anyone who's here on a phone call rather than a picture who wants to comment? Do we have the hand raising feature on this call?
They can put under reactions. They should be able to utilize the hand raising feature.
Under reaction.
Oh, no, sorry, wrong one. I apologize.
The record button on Zoom.
Oh, reactions. There it is.
Yep.
All right. Yes. If you would please, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand and I will get to you in as quickly as I can. But bear in mind that I have to look at 2 screens, so I might not see you instantly. All right. First comment. I'm sorry, I don't see anyone. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
Hi. Is it my turn? I'm okay to go. All right. Thank you. Okay. My name is Erin Mariano. Many of you know me, my husband, Peter. I'd like to thank all of you board members and educators for your service to our schools and our children. My father sat on the Board of Ed for 14 years in Brookfield, and I know it's sometimes a thankless job. I'm here tonight with Peter because we were a bit alarmed at some of the inappropriate comments made at the last meeting regarding the removal of the religious exemption. The bill that Mary Weber reported on was controversial and will no doubt be challenged in court. In 2019, the public hearing for the removal of the RE lasted 22 hours in Hartford, with over 600 people showing up to testify in person. 92% of those opposed the bill. This year's hearing was limited to 24 hours, with only 400 or so of the 1,900 who signed up having an opportunity to testify. 95% of the testimonies were opposed to the bill. Among those opposed were teachers, doctors, scientists, researchers, and of course, many and mostly passionate parents. The bill was not aimed simply at making sure students get their MMR. It was aimed at removing parental choice for any and all vaccines that the state, guided by the CDC, decides to tack on to the required list. I think the fact that this bill passed despite the outcry against it is evidence of the power that the pharmaceutical industry has over our legislators. Ms. Weber brought up the term herd immunity several times. This term gets used a lot, especially recently in the media. I will not go into details. I know this is not a place for debate, but there is a difference between naturally acquired herd immunity and vaccine-induced immunity. For example, a percentage of cases in the measles outbreaks we hear about are in fact vaccine strain. My point being that this is a very nuanced debate, and the people I know who use the RE have done a great deal of research. They are not simply uneducated or misinformed. Mary Weber asserted that people are using the RE as a loophole. That may be true for some, but for me and for most others that I know, this is indeed a deeply spiritual, religious, and moral issue. I don't want to discuss my beliefs in a public forum, but I feel I must defend myself and those who are less willing to stick their necks out. I'm not anti-vaccine or anti-science, but frankly, I put far more faith in God and nature than I do in a for-profit pharmaceutical industry that in 1986 was given complete indemnity by our government from all damages occurring as a result of their vaccines. I was floored mostly by Ms. Weber's claim that those of us who use the RE see witch doctors. I'm not sure exactly how one would define a witch doctor. Would it be one who is holistic in their approach to wellness, such as a DO or a chiropractor, supporting the general health of the patient, or a naturopath who uses herbs, homeopathy, and diet, sometimes in conjunction with more conventional medicines? Is it a doctor whose medical education was not designed by pharma? For the record, my children do see a traditional pediatrician who appreciates and has even worked in conjunction with the advice of our naturopath. Whatever the insinuation, a comment like that is simply offensive and not even based in reality, which brings me to my last point. It shocks me that so few people see that the news media, social media, entertainment industry, and many of our government officials are in lockstep with this narrative that we can no longer trust our own instincts, our immune systems, or each other for that matter. Suddenly we're encouraged to ostracize, censor, criticize, condemn, and now even segregate others who do not agree with the groupthink or submit to the all-consuming vaccine agenda. I often ask myself, where exactly does this lead? Families have already begun fleeing this state upon the removal of the RE, just as they fled California and then New York. We have an exceptional school system in Region 12, but I fear that families will leave it in favor of homeschooling if it increasingly becomes an environment of judgment and intolerance, or if the list of mandated vaccines continues to grow at the alarming rate that it has. In my opinion, when we advocate for the removal of the rights of those we disagree with, we are in effect participating in the dismantling of our own collective freedoms, which people have obviously died for, many people. That's all I have to say. I appreciate you listening to me, and I'd be happy to discuss this further with anyone who wants to know more about this side of that debate. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I want to see if we have anyone else who would like to speak. I'm looking for raised hand. I'm looking for the hand raise feature. I don't see anyone else. Is there someone else who would like to address us on matters on our agenda tonight? I don't see anyone else. Okay, going once, going twice. We'll move on then. Thank you all very much. And thank you for your comments, Aaron. I really appreciate that. And I hope people realize that they should.
7:14 p.m.
I don't know what that is. I hope we should realize that if you do have concerns and issues and comments, you should come and tell us. Otherwise, we don't know. So thank you very much. Very much appreciated. All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which happens to be updates on COVID-19 and vaccinations. Megan?
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. And I'm just going to, oh, sorry about that, hit the wrong button. Oh, you can see who I usually go. Let me try that one more time. I apologize. it is being difficult today. Okay, here we go. There it is. All right, well, it has been quite an exceptional year. And as we've gone through the updates and our numbers, just like we've done with every board meeting, it has been a cumulative sharing of information so we can see the status of Region 12. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how exceptional our staff has been for the health and safety of our students. So as you can see with our date, the year to date that we have, I apologize, there is an error. It should say June 14th and not May 23rd. We did update because we did have one additional student case at Chippewa. That is the only addition. In addition to 2 students being put in quarantine due to close contact out of Chippewa. But as you can see, as we conclude the year, Chippew's numbers are far fewer than some of our counterparts in other districts. We have benefited from having a large amount of square footage. We have benefited from having an incredibly supportive, wonderful community who's taken the steps to keep our children safe in school. And so this is how we round out the year this year with our COVID numbers. I would also like to share with you that I just received this update from our Department of Health. And what this graphic does is it showcases the number of COVID-19 vaccines that have been provided by zip code. Now, what I want to caution everybody is not all of these students, even though they live within our zip codes in Region 12, are Region 12 students. They do not have the ability to drill down to that level of specificity. However, it does at least give us a sense of what is happening with the COVID-19 vaccinations, who is availing themselves to the opportunities that have existed within the departments of health. So this should showcase just some of the numbers that we are starting to see. We are getting word that for vaccines for students who are under the age of 12, we are hearing reports that may be as soon as mid-September. And I've also heard reports as late as the end of November. So this is something that we continue to watch carefully, because for us, for planning and how we are designing our classrooms does very much depend on how people can control some of the health conditions they are exposed to. So just again, this is information for people to look through. And to just update where we landed for the end of the year. And again, I'm going to apologize because we did have one case that we knew after the April 26th date. I do want to let everyone know that summer school will still require masks for our students. This is per the State Department of Education. So children who are attending summer school will need to be masked, as well as the staff who are interacting with them. We have been currently working on our reopening and our return to school plan. The good news for Region 12 is that our original opening plan covers the federal requirements. We've already done our public review of the information. We've actually been in school for a full year, which is ahead of a lot of states within the United States. So we've already gone through some of those benchmarks that were needed in order to get the funding that is becoming available to us. But what we will be also doing is updating that reopening plan every 6 months. So we will constantly have a survey that is on our website seeking input from our families. I can tell you we've already had a number of families who have reached out on the survey. Most of the feedback is please take away these masks. But there's also been a lot of very positive comments regarding the staff's response, appreciation for how the district has handled the pandemic, and everything there in between, but I can say that right now, there's nothing that has been a big surprise when it's come back to feedback and how people are feeling about our response to the pandemic. The COVID-19 vaccination clinics will remain available to people during the summer for 12 and older. I know that in talking to New Milford, who is the clinic that we typically access for our students, they are no longer going to be holding their Saturday clinics. Part of that is because the need is dying down a bit, but they will be having Wednesday evening clinics. So those will remain available. A reminder to everybody, we are not requiring our students to have COVID-19 vaccines, but we are certainly making certain that they know the availability thereof. And so that concludes, and I will open up to any questions people have regarding the pandemic at this time. You want me to take Alex?
Two questions. One, on your, by zip code, I saw 18 and above. That's still students they're talking about, not just people in general.
That is absolutely correct. And thank you for saying that. And if, for clarity's sake, when I go back into this, I will say students who are 18.
Okay.
and above, yes.
And my second question is the young lady who was the latest case, is she home now or?
I'm not allowed to disclose due to HIPAA. So we did have a case and we're wishing that child well.
Okay, somehow I understood she was in the hospital. So I don't know how I got that information.
No, it was, but we don't disclose the medical information of our students for this. But yes,
Just
we
wish her well.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the recognition of volunteers extraordinaire.
All right. Well, I thank you. And I see many of our familiar faces that are on the screen tonight because we do want to recognize our PTO members at each one of our schools. This year was a year in which many people who typically would volunteer and be part of our classrooms and part of the experience were not able to join us. We obviously had to put the safety of our students above some of the experiences we typically like to share with people who are outside of our schools. But that does not mean that there were not a whole lot of people who were doing some really heavy lifting for us throughout the school year. So at this time, I would like to make certain that we are recognizing the efforts of our PTO members. I'm going to introduce each one of our executive members of the PTO at each school. I know that I have a couple of our principals who want to just say their appreciations. But I think when we think about what our PTO officers do each year, whether it is pulling up morale at our school by making certain that our teachers have their treats, or making certain that teacher appreciation is not just another week in the year, or to make certain that Aloha has that extra special pizzazz for the students. Or when you just say, hey, oh my goodness, I need something. These are the people who come to our rescue day in and day out. And I think you all have seen those lawn signs congratulating, try that again. Congratulating, it's been a lot of speeches this past week, congratulating our seniors. That comes from our Chapag PTO. And those are the moments in which they help an entire community come together and celebrate. And we want to make certain that we celebrate them. So I hope that all of our PTO members, as I announced them, were able to receive, they each received a t-shirt. So that way they can be loud and proud in the community, outing them as a PTO member. And again, everything this year came with chocolate. And so we wanted to make certain that went home with them as well. So first, I would like to recognize our Washington primary PTO members. Our first member I'd like to recognize is President Sarah Belanger. Our Vice President, Shauna Godshock. Our Treasurer, Dylan Schiesel. And our Secretary, Jessica Barr. Thank you so much, Washington Primary PTO. And Mrs. Judd, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thanks, Megan. I just want to thank the leaders recognized tonight and all the parents of Washington Primary School. Behind the scenes, they have supported our students and teachers through this very tricky year, from providing recess materials, helping with special projects, and showing their appreciation for our staff with surprise lunches and treats. They're always in our corner. So really a special thanks and shout out to Sarah, Shauna, Jess, and Dylan. Thank you so much.
Our next PTO I'd like to recognize is our booth-free PTO. I'd like to recognize our two co-presidents, Kara Abraham and Jessica Granger. Our Vice President, Megan Hodge. Secretary, Donna Lazowski. And Treasurer, Brenda McGuire. Congratulations. Mrs. Coelho, would you like to say a thing or two?
Yes, I needed to unmute myself. So I want to thank my PTO at Booth Free School for their unwavering commitment to our students and staff, for providing, playground equipment, Aloha, making our Aloha really special, pops whenever we needed it. They are definitely wonderful leaders and really supported our students. So I thank Jessica, Kara, Megan, and Brenda, and Donna for all the work that they've done this year.
All right, Kathy, keep that mute button close at hand because we're going to do Burnham's PTO next. So at this time, I would like to recognize our Burnham PTO, our president, Diana Kelly, Vice President, Nicole Orletsky, Secretary, Rebecca Lenganke, and Treasurer, Katie Kubisek. If I said those wrong, Kathy, it is up to you to correct me on all of those.
Yay! So I want to thank my Burnham PTO also. Their unwavering commitment to our students and staff is just incredible. So, you know, they've supported our Aloha playground equipment when we really needed it. Pops, you know, they're definitely leaders recognized tonight that support our students. So I want to recognize Diana, Nicole, Rebecca, and Katie for all the work that they've done at Burnham School. So thank you very much.
All right, and at this time, I'd like to recognize our Chippewa Valley PTO, our president, Julie King, Vice President Nicole Ross, and Treasurer Angela Leclerc. And Mrs. Gallo, did you want to come over here and say something? So I'm going to switch seats for a moment so Mrs. Gallo can also. So while I'm switching seats, you can applaud them all.
So you may have heard that this year was a little bit different than our typical year. And the PTO experience was no different. Although our PTO couldn't get together the way they like to, and they couldn't do the social aspects of PTO, which are really very nice about that. It's another community experience at Chippewa. They are the group that we reach out to when we were trying to do something, anything more creative and put something into a ceremony that would make up for, or at least be a nice addition to, all the things that we had to eliminate due to COVID. The most recent example you saw were the signs, which they did last year and this year. And also for our middle schoolers, Mr. Croft reached out to them when we were looking for something different to do for our middle schoolers, and they paid for a photograph, a little collage of every single middle schooler that lined the path down to the soccer field for their recognition ceremony. And it really was wonderful. It was a baby picture and a picture of them now. And so Nicole and Julie and Angela, I really appreciate the work that you've done. I am in awe of the speed at which you do it. When we send you an email and say, can you get the word out about something? It's about 2 minutes and I have an answer. And I know you're very busy people. And I'd also like to thank you for Luca and all of your kids, because they are students that are active in our school, whether it be standing up for a cause or waving to me from the bus stop in the morning as I go by when I'm a little tiny bit late, or that student that talks to me about the play coming up and what kind of cool things they're doing to make it work. So I want to thank you for all of those things you add to our school community in big and small ways, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we're going to go to Teacher of the Year.
Oh, did you want Teacher of the Year?
Yeah. Or we can move FFA up.
No,
rather.
I am very happy to talk about the Teacher of the Year. And I have the great pleasure of introducing our 2021-2022 Teacher of the Year, Miss Betsy O'Neill. I'm sorry, she's going to need a little screen time, so we're going to put her at my seat. She's going to get some screen time, but I think the most important thing we need to show you is how we shared this information with her. So if it's okay, Ben, can you please roll tape?
Oh, boy.
Hi, everybody. We are about to unveil the Teacher of the Year. This individual has been in the district for over 30 years, having taught at all levels. This individual is solution-driven. There is no roadblock too big that she will not move for her students. She pioneered a new program in district for her students so that they can have long-term success in life. This includes work placement for her students, and during the pandemic, she reconfigured student experiences and transformed the classroom into a variety of workplaces so that students would continue to learn. She has a special connection with students and families. This is quite visible at graduation when she wells up with emotion and pride for every child she has helped become a young adult. There is no greater cheerleader of children. She is unwavering in her commitment to her colleagues and her students. She never stops giving. The Teacher of the Year Committee and all our colleagues congratulate you. It gives me great honor to announce the 2021-22 Region 12 Teacher of the Year.
Hello, Mrs. O'Neill.
Hi, how are you?
We are here
Yes.
because you are our Teacher of the Year.
Oh, come on.
Region 12. Woo! You have made such a difference.
Thank you very much. Means a lot. Means a real lot. God, I'm gonna be crying.
Good job. Good job.
The reason this program even started, right, is because Mrs. O'Neill, I had the faith and the confidence that Mrs. O'Neill could do the job of starting a brand new program in a district that's never had their own transition program. And the reason I had that faith and confidence was because the work that she did at Chapag prior to the program. She was always, and you guys know because you were part of it, she had you at wonderful job shadows. She had you at jobs in school, outside of school. And we had the faith and confidence that if anybody could start something up, it's Mrs. O'Neill. And so since the program started, right, 3 years ago, for those of you that have been here for the whole time, there's been nothing but amazing, amazing things happening for you students. She works tireless hours to make sure she's building relationships with businesses, with the town, with the bank, the gym. Everything you've gotten to do has been because of Mrs. O'Neill's efforts.
She's on the weekends on the phone. She's, she can't mow the lawn when I want her to because she has to do IPPs, things like that. The dishes don't get done. It's a mess, but we're working through it. No, just kidding. JK.
From the Board of Education, so just so you know, it is the Teacher of the Year.
Oh, wow.
2021, 2022. Put this over.
So proud of you, Betsy.
I am available for coverage now. So I can even help here if we need to do bus dismissal. I'm on it. But why don't you take some time with your family? Get some bugs.
Hi, everybody. It was quite a shock, and I am very honored. Thank you. I am very honored to have been chosen as Region 12's Teacher of the Year. It's been, I've been here a long time. So it's kind of, it's very rewarding to think, especially with this, there's so many teachers here that are such great educators. So for myself to be chosen is just like a great honor. And I didn't know I had to talk. So
We've sprung a lot on you.
yeah, you did. It's been a whirlwind the past 2 weeks. And so I thank you, and to all my former students that have reached out and former parents that have reached out. It's been really exciting. So I thank you, and I am totally honored. Totally honored.
You can. I was going to do it in the update, but I think
Okay.
you should.
Okay, so here's some. Can I? Yeah. So here's some more great news for Chappaqua Valley Partnership. This I'm like very excited about this too. Subaru, who does Love Promise, where they give back to the community, recognized Chappaqua Valley Partnership and brought us, they had like an outing at Mayflower, and they packed 40 backpacks filled with goodies for our students for work. So next year, so all of our students, and I brought one to Megan so she could see, they're filled with all kinds of things that they can take with them to work sites when they go out. So that's something else that's very exciting. So a lot has happened the past, 2 weeks, and my classroom is filled with 40 backpacks right now. So 2 things have happened. So very excited, very, very excited. And that's all I have to say.
Well, I think, is there any doubt on why she was the natural choice for our Teacher of the Year and above all odds? So congratulations, Betsy.
All right. Congratulations, Betsy. We're going to move on to FFA recognition.
Okay, you're all set.
Chippewa Board of Education, thank you for allowing us to join your agenda this evening. On May 27th, 2021, the Chippewa FFA held our year-end banquet awards night. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it took place over Zoom. At this event, last year's office team honored some members of the community with the first ever Chippewa FFA honorary chapter membership. Honorary membership, farmers, school superintendents, principals, members of boards of education, chapter advisors, teachers, staff members in agricultural education, business people, and others who are helping to advance agricultural education, and the FFA, and who have rendered outstanding service may be elected to honorary membership by majority vote of the members present at any regular meeting or convention. We want to thank you once again for the commitment, passion, and determination each of you have shown in making the Chippewa AgriScience Academy exist. Please take home your honorary degree and know that we will also be placing on display here at Chippewa a plaque honoring your efforts in building our program. And
Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you.
And Mrs. Bennett, thank you so much for being a fearless leader and starting our program.
Thank you.
Well, this is a high honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for supporting our program and our students.
And Mr. Lawler, thank you for absolutely everything, because you know that I was gonna, yeah, we're not okay with you just walking away because we really appreciate it. Unmute yourself. Yes, please.
Is that better? Okay. The future for Chippewa AgriScience and the FFA, what we are hoping to build is going to continue to be the flagship program of our state of Connecticut. We are looking at other schools in other states to get new and fresh ideas of what the future of agriculture really means to our students. And even in the world of COVID, we had a great officer team this year pull together and have at least 3 events for members each month. And we're hoping to just increase that as we go. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Well, it's nice to see the reality. It was just a dream back in 2015, 6 years ago when we started down this road. And I still have the sign in my garage. So for our first thing, so that's fantastic. Okay, we'll move on to recognition of Board of Education members. I'm sorry.
That's our retirees.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I had that in the wrong line. All right.
Ben, can you do me a favor? Can you pull up the picture of the chair? Our retiring board members receive a chair as a way to honor and help them remember in case they ever want to forget that they were part of the Board of Education. But truly, it is for us, people who have served well. It's our way to appreciate them. And it's really, we got here because of everything that you have done. And so I believe that our chairman has some words to share.
We have two members that are leaving us after many years of fine service. Our current vice chair, Mike Sinatra, teacher, educator, and you've done it for us too. And you've been an unstinting public servant. You've been here. You've taken command of one of our important curriculum, the curriculum committee, and you have done a marvelous job with that. You've served as vice chairman, and you have truly exemplified service to community and service to school. And Mike, we're going to really miss you, and we're you have escaped though. But thank you so much for all of your hard service. Really appreciate that. Jim Hirschfield, 24 years on the Board of Education, 8, I think, as chairman, if I'm not mistaken. And what else can I say? A lawyer extraordinaire, a leader, a school leader, a person who has devoted enormous amount of time to this organization and to our children. And you have brought your talents, and you've had them on display, and you've been our leader. So I cannot thank you enough, and we're going to miss you, Jim. And hopefully the meetings won't get too long without you pushing me along. So
thank you, Greg. Would you mind if I said a few words, Greg?
I would not.
I just want to leave. I made a few notes and just wanted to leave the board with a couple of thoughts. It has been 24 years. I started in 1997. I had 2 daughters, 8 and 6 at that time. They both went through Chepaug K through 12. One is now a veterinarian, and the other has a master's in public health. They're in their early 30s. They graduated in 2007 and 2009. Board has been through a lot in the time that I've been here, since 1997. Not quite as long as Mrs. O'Neill. We've been through a lot, several different superintendents. But I think the board is, and the region is in a great place right now. We have a wonderful superintendent, a wonderful school, and her staff, and the students just continue to amaze me and all of us. I would just leave, I know we have a new board coming in. Most of you will be here, but a couple of thoughts that I had. I've said this before, and some of you have probably heard this before, but in making decisions, I know that you all will apply your best judgment, but I think it's important to think regionally. When you're making decisions, think regionally. We all have a constituency of our towns, the people that elected us to your office. But I think your primary obligation, and I've said this many times before, is to Region 12. And so I ask you to just remember that. I would also ask that, not ask, but just my recommendation, I guess, for what it's worth, that you think, a board member, think long and hard before rejecting the advice of your professional staff. You've hired them for a reason. They have an excellent superintendent, business manager, administration, teachers, principals. Listen to them and consider what they're saying very strongly before you decide to go in another direction. One last thing I want to say is, as you know, it's the job of the board chair. And what does this say? Yeah, I was chairman for 8 years. My God. One of the jobs of the board of chair is to appoint the chairman of committees. And I will say that one of the best decisions I ever made in my last year as chair in 2017 was I first asked and then appointed Greg Cava as chairman of our building committee. And they have done a spectacular job, tremendous hours, time, dedication, and brought us this, in part, brought us this wonderful facility that we now have. And it's been, everybody, not only the building committee, but the superintendent, the prior superintendent who started, but our superintendent now has done the yeoman's work and the committee. And we're very fortunate. So thank you, Greg. You guys have done a tremendous job and a wonderful finished product. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. That's all I have. Good luck to everybody. I'll be around. So thank you for everything. Appreciate it.
Okay. I think we are on to recognition of Ms. Gallo, Principal Gallo.
Well, at this time, Scala, can I have you come back? We're going to put you back on screen. This is Mrs. Gallo's final board meeting, because I don't think she's going to want to do this for fun and giggles. But I know that the board would like to share a few words, so I'm going to put you right here, and they can say nice things about you.
Okay.
Kim, let me start by saying that our whole purpose for being here is for the children of this region. And ever since you set foot in Chippewa Valley School, you have made children the center of the world. You have done such a job getting to know every kid in this building for all these years and making this a place where they feel safe, they feel loved, and they feel special. And you have done that in a way that I have seen from no other professional. And there are some great professionals that I've seen in my years, but you're just absolutely the bee's knees, as they say. You made kids the center of the school, which is the right way to do it. It's not always the case, because a principal has a lot of things to do and a lot of hard choices and decisions to make. And sometimes you have to be a disciplinarian, and sometimes, but you've done it in a way that I think that these kids have benefited from because of your love for them. And I guess you just made that way. That's the way it is. That's who you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay.
Come on.
Anybody else would like to share?
Anyone else have anything to say? Come on, Jeff.
That's all I need, right? Is that enough? Okay. Well, obviously, I completely echo what Greg said, but personally for me, I just have appreciated my my relationship with you professionally and personally, and I just adore you. I also love your sense of humor, and that's been my favorite part. So I'm gonna miss you personally, not just here in the buildings, but just you as a person. And so I just want to thank you for sharing yourself with me. And I just am so grateful to walk away from this knowing that I have a friend. So thank you. Thanks.
I've probably known Kim longer than any of you. I've known her since she was a freshman in college. And it's been a long journey. She wasn't Mrs. Gallo then. She had no children, but I must say Tommy Gallo was in the picture. And I've known him since he was a little kid too. It's been a pleasure having you as the principal of our high school. I just love it. And the best part is I got to be on the Board of Ed when you retired. I love you.
Love you right back. Thank you.
This is a tough night with all of this, but I just want to say thank you. And you, what I also agree with what everyone has said, but you have been a fantastic leader. I've seen how you've run this school, and especially the past year and a half, and you will be greatly missed. And I've really enjoyed being on the board and as a parent. So thank you, and have fun in your next adventure and your next chapter with those grandbabies. So congratulations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, like Mary, I indirectly knew Kim because I worked with her husband for 40 years, Tommy. But I think when Jim, gave a lot of credit to Greg for the ag science, Kim Gallo was the most, voracious fighter, especially in her, I think 3 times you testified before the Education Committee at the State House. And yeah, I mean, we were the opponents then, but I came to really honor and appreciate all the hard work that she's done to give us our ag program and our ag school. And she had a vision back when, and it's come to fruition. Thank you, Kim.
If you remember anything about this evening, I'd like you to hear one thing that has been important to me in all my years, and probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, and that's our first day of school ceremony. We take out a silly red carpet and we put balloons at the end of it, and the whole staff gathers around and we clap and we cheer and we tell the kids that dancing is optional, and they walk into school in a real celebration. But that's not the most important part. That's just the idea that happened at a conference a few years back. The important part is that in this school, kids are shy. And when you have kids from grade 6 through grade 12, a lot of times it can be pretty intimidating to walk into a school. But our kids walk in, and I watch this every year, and there's 2 things that happen. The first thing is they look around, and what they're doing is they're scanning for their favorite teacher, that safe haven in the building. And that's what gets them across that red carpet. And they go right to that teacher where they're always welcomed with a hug, except in COVID. And they're always welcomed, they're always greeted, and they're immediately at home and comfortable. And the second thing that happens, which every leader needs to do, and you need to hear as the board, is that I take the time to go to each of those teachers and tell them who looked for them and how they were their safe haven, and reinforce that behavior. We don't always reinforce the small things when we talk about education. We talk about test scores, and those are important. We talk about money, and of course that's important. And we talk about our own agendas, and those are important to us. Maybe they're important too. However, what we need to start talking about and understanding about this system is how truly special it is that our children walk in to a safe haven. And as leaders, we need to remember to recognize that behavior and do the other important things at important meetings. Okay, thank you.
Kim, every kid that's walked into and out of this school has left here with, I think, an appreciation of the clear compass that you steer by. And so we just want to give you this as a token of our esteem and our thanks
Thank you so
for
much.
taking such good care of our kids
Thank you, Greg.
and our
I really-
teachers too.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are going to just have a brief recess to set the stage for the next item and for any conversation that people might care to have. I will call the meeting back to order at 8:12. If I can get everyone else to sit down.
Our retirees are restless. You're not retired from the board yet.
Okay.
Stretching, doing the victory lap.
All right, we're now on to the part of the agenda where we have the end of year slideshow. Another Ben Allen
It's another
production.
Ben Allen production.
We need that tag at the end.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. And we will rise I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
And fantastic. Another stellar Ben Allen production. I mean, that was really tremendous. Wow, you look at that and you say, where would you want your kids to go to school?
Exactly.
And I think people have noticed. So
Oscar material.
that was terrific. We made it through another year.
How remarkable are our teachers and students?
You know, absolutely. I was talking to Kim, the interesting thing is she said to me, she said, I think this is really going to be a mess, when the school year started, because these kids are not going to want to wear masks. It's going to be just horrible. And what did she say? The kids came in masked. No, they don't like wearing them, but they did it because they want to be here. They want to be in school. They want to be with their friends. They want to be learning. And they get it all the way down to the youngest elementary kids up to the senior high school kids. They got it. And they showed what matters when you think when that's the way you are. And I think it gives tremendous tribute to these kids. And I think the teachers deserve, accolades for having to deal with this, because everything they had to do had to be upended sideways 3 different ways in order to figure out, now we're in full lockdown mode. Now we're doing distance learning. Now we're back to in-person learning. Now we've got people in the hallways. Now we've got people here. Now we've got vaccines. Now things maybe are changing. And it's like everything, it's just constant change. It really, gives you, what was the great Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, the only constant in life is change. And that's what they've had this year in spades. And you're right, absolutely right, Jen. They really came through. And also I want to give a shout out to their parents in our community, because really people pitched in. They realized what they had to do. They made sure their kids were ready to school. They made sure they came here and were protected and safe. And I think we did a pretty good job on getting through this another atrocious year that we've had to deal with this mess. But we did it. We pulled it off.
They gave their trust in this district, right? And I just think that speaks volumes of the families and of the community, that you send this year of the unknown, you send your child out and that you're sending them to a safe place. And that just speaks volumes about the kind of community we live in. So.
No, absolutely does. John, I know you want to say
Yeah, I want to add on to your comments about that too. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to watch the graduation video. And I want to thank especially Kim for all her planning in that event. Megan, yourself, Greg, and Ben, were you part of the getting?
Oh, yes.
Amazing. It was amazing. If anybody hasn't seen it, please watch it, because it's very good. And it's definitely, a testimony to, if there's a will, there's a way. And we should give recognition to the class of 2021 tonight too.
yes, absolutely. Mary.
I'd like to be able to do something for Spring Hill Farm. They have gone above and beyond to do things for us. And because of the new regulations that the town of Washington has given them, they can only do 3 special events a year. And our prom had to be one of them. So they used our prom as one of their 2 events that they could do this year. So I think maybe there's something we should say to them that's special. Because that was a special thing to do for our kids, especially this year.
That's good. It's good. I think it's a good idea, Mary. We'll have to take that, figure that one out. I think we should. Okay. Well, we're on to reports and recognition. We'll start with my report, which will be fairly brief. I can tell you that I got to do the 2 favorite things I do as chairman of the board, which was to go to the 8th grade promotion ceremony and the graduation ceremony, the commencement exercises, and to hand out diplomas and to see all those wonderful kids. And it's just a real honor. And I've got to tell you, one of the other reasons that I think things have been so successful this year is I'm proud of this board, because there are a lot of times, I bet you had people bending your ear right and left. A lot of times you could have marched off to that. And what you did is you trusted our superintendent, you trusted our staff, and they did not betray that trust. They paid it back in spades. And I think you showed a lot of leadership in doing that. I think that's very important. But I will tell you, the graduation and promotion ceremony were just absolutely terrific. We heard some great kids give some great presentations. We heard some great poetry, especially from the middle schoolers, and we heard some great reminiscences and things. We heard fabulous speeches by the high school kids. I mean, these kids are just growing up so fast, and they really exhibited that. And I think you should be very proud of them. They were just joyous events, especially the 8th grade promotion ceremony, because here we were, after it was over, the school provided ice cream for the kids and then for everyone in the crowd. And so everyone was around each other, and they were close, and they were pretty much unmasked. And they were enjoying each other's company in a way that I can't tell you. They were proud of their kids, and they were happy to see their friends and neighbors. And the one observation I had is, my gosh, for a second there, we're no longer afraid of each other. And I think that was it was a wonderful event. And the high school graduation, absolutely spectacular, very special, different than last year's, but I wouldn't call it better. I wouldn't call last year's better. I'd call them both individual events that were distinct and unique and wonderful. And I'll tell you, after that 8th grade ceremony, though, I kept saying to myself, God, I can't wait till we can bring this whole thing back to Chippewa, because this campus was radiant. It was absolutely beautiful. And you really felt like this is where you spent these 7 years for many kids of your life. And wow, it's a place you want to be for that last day. So that's my report for what it's worth. Megan?
I'm looking forward to being a superintendent with like 2 similar graduations in a row. That would just be fantastic. Like at this point, you can choose your menu. Do you want the 2018, 2019, 2020, or 2021 version? Fantastic. I joke because I have to tell you, each one has been spectacular, and Saturday was no different for our seniors. And again, for everyone who came out and all of the sports. And I know that, we've recognized Mrs. Gallo, but Mr. Croft, who's there, Mr. Boucher, who stands there, the amount of work that Sharon Magner and Nancy Knapp have to do in order to make certain we've got everything in that right order. The amount of custodians who came out to make certain everything was right, and Bill Murphy, Don Graff, Nancy Meyer, Tim Brown, and Jeff Mazzarelli. And you have to know, Jeff actually even had to go out and rewire the work on Friday in order to make certain that sound system was perfect. And it's just, and this is not a district that lets anything go less than right for our kids. And you watch people take great pains and give of their time in order to make certain that our children are showcased and celebrated. And Ben, I know the hours that you had to put in above and beyond in order to make certain that that video was timed and when it was live stream and not. And, again, it's our families, it's our students, it's our 3 towns. It is amazing. So it was a wonderful afternoon. I thought it was going to be evening. Greg and I were pre-taped saying evening. It was in the afternoon. It only goes to show that, you know, we're pivoting with everything that happens and we're trying to adjust and meet where our communities are. And I'm so proud of how far our communities take us. So we do have a lot of congratulations. So I'm going to go through a couple of things because our kids continue to just do outstanding things. So I have to congratulate our 5th grader, Jade Santos at Booth Free School. Her invention, Mask Our Aid, has been sent to the 2021 Virtual Invention Convention, U.S. Nationals event. Out of 6,000 students, she is one of 64 inventors going forward on this. And so she will be competing on June 24th. We are so proud. Hopefully she gets a patent for her invention, but just great pride in that. Just so you all know, we also have an artist, Billy Cario, took 2nd place for his win in the photograph titled Night, and his work will hang in Congresswoman Johanna Hayes' office in Washington, D.C. for the next year. I believe, Mr. Sinatra, it's going to replace your daughters that was there. So Chippewa continues to have representation in that office, and it's a credit to our art department. And if you have not seen some of the things that our art department has done, and they have worked in conjunction with the WAA, with Judy Black, with some of our libraries, but also go on to our website because Donna Wright has created a virtual showcase and our students are spectacular. So also, I have to thank Linda McMillan for her graphic design and what she's done. And it's just, you watch some very talented people help showcase our talented students. And I'm incredibly proud. And speaking of the arts, because Ben Allen just sent it to us hot off the presses, we have our students that are nominated for 15 Halo Awards in 14 categories. I can tell you, I was toying between reading every single name, but it turns out it's multiple pages. So I will certainly be putting this on our website, but to know we have things such as our students did original screenplays that they are nominated for. We have the scenery, we have the directors. And again, watching people who have stepped up and showcased our students when other schools did not. We had both a fall and spring presentation. And when it wasn't able to be on a stage, it was put into a Hollywood style movie. And our children have just been able to still show their craft. So I will have all of those names up, but really when you hear about the best original play, the fall of 2020, that comes from an entire cohort of kids, and just remarkable job, Ben, bringing them in, Ben and Beth Harvison working together. So thank you. You heard about Betsy O'Neill showcasing that Subaru has donated to Chippewa Valley Partnership. Not only that, they have put out press releases about our little program. And again, watching our students take center stage. This came about because our students were working at the Mayflower and they were helping out, and someone from Subaru, as they were setting up, noticed our students and the work they were doing behind the scenes. And again, they said, what can we do to donate? What can we do to help? And so it's just, again, another fantastic partnership. And I also want you to know all of the town businesses that are supporting our students in the partnership. You'll hear about the market, you hear about the church, you hear about the Mayflower. I've actually heard that the Mayflower allowed one of our students an overnight stay with her family to say thank you. And she also bragged about she gets freshly squeezed orange juice every morning. I'm not getting that. So I have to say, it's again, the care, the community, it is back and forth. We are getting just as much as we are giving. And it's amazing to hear. So I now need to move us to athletics because I've bragged on the arts, we're bragging on the academics, but we also have to showcase that our spring athletic team took the CIAC by storm this year. Our tennis teams advanced to the Class S state tournament quarterfinals versus Westbrook, and we'll end the story there. Our boys baseball team made it to the Class S quarterfinals against St. Paul's. Girls softball teams made it to the Class S semifinals. And I especially want to know our softball team semifinals. We almost didn't run the team because we didn't have enough girls playing. There was a recruitment effort from Mr. Parachi and the entire staff trying to make certain that this came together. And not only did it come together, we were almost state champions. So it is amazing to know the talents that get brought out. And I can tell you, even talking to parents, one of the parents whose son, the first time he was trying tennis was this year. And again, quarterfinals. And this is a place that kids can try these things and be successful. It just, again, remarkable. I have to congratulate our senior, Owen Hibbard, who was named as the CHSCA Class S All-Star Baseball Team member. He continues to showcase in every sport that he's been part of. So congratulations. And again, a wonderful year that if any one part of this fell down, if our community did not back us, if our staff wasn't willing to be in front of us kids, if the students weren't right there alongside of us, if you did not support us, none of this would have happened. So we can sit here and we can say, what a horrible year. We can sit back and say, wow. And I am in the wow camp right now. It is a great place to be. So congratulations to Region 12 this year. So with that, I have a long list of personnel announcements, so I'm just going to go through quickly on some of the changes. So we have an appointment of Megan Berry, who is our new agri-science teacher for Chippewa Valley School. Liz Delarada will be returning to us as an elementary teacher at Washington Primary School. And Kristen Mosier will move from being a literacy tutor into being a classroom teacher for next year at Washington Primary. We say goodbye to Chelsea Bohan, who was our library clerk, Emma Collette, who was the literacy tutor at Washington Primary, our paraprofessional Amy Davis, our paraprofessional Melissa Fay at Booth Free School, Tracy Scarborough, who is a teacher at Booth Free School, Kenneth Schultz, the paraprofessional at Chippewa Valley School, and Casey Siebert, who was with us this year and supported our kindergarten at Washington Primary School. And as they go on into their next adventure, please know they have made their mark and made us a better place. So we appreciate all of their talents. And we do have some people who are also doing some shuffling in between. So Jennifer Barriga will now be our data specialist. Betsy Britton will now be the custodian at the Agri-Science Academy. Alan Eddy will move from being a tutor, paraprofessional into the math tutor position at Chippewa. And Johanna Murphy, as we call her Josie, will be an educational technology specialist. So we are very excited. I see great things happening for our school, and we wish all those who are departing us well wishes. So that concludes my report, unless there's any questions. What process do we move as people move to the various positions?
Who's capable of serving the school system in the positions that you listed? What do you use as a barometer and method?
The way that we're able to make determinations on where people move to is we look at their skill sets. We look at some of their past experiences that they've had. We look at the roles and positions. So we certainly look at the job description to see if they would be able to support us in that. We also find opportunities. I think it's part of the role of a school district to also stretch people, to give them what is their growth point. So I think there's been a lot of times we've discovered talents from people to see what they've been able to do, seeing if we're reconfiguring departments, what are some of the opportunities that have opened up. But I think it's our job within the school system to make certain that people are successful in the new roles. So we stretch them to where we think they're going to be successful without making them frustrated.
What do you use as the evaluatory process to determine that those that you've chosen evaluate to be in certain positions? Accomplish what you believe is their mission.
We evaluate, so the question was about the evaluation of the staff. How do we recognize when they are successful? Every staff member is evaluated every year. And they have a conversation with their supervisor. We let them know, this is the first year our teachers, they are put on a rating scale, and whether they are not meeting standards, developing, proficient, or exemplary. We let them know where they fall on that scale. We let them know things that they can do in order to improve. But they are given feedback every single year in order to determine whether they're successful. If they are not, some people are put on success plans in which we figure ways that we can grow their talent, or if it's not working out, we also let people know that. We have enough respect for people to let them know when it's not a match.
Did you hear anything about the 1% capital non-recurring account moving to 2%? I can't find it I looked through.
It was defeated.
It's
Well, not defeated, it wasn't acted on.
wasn't acted on. So the right now, the implementers bill is right now the last ditch effort. I can tell you that both Nicole and I wrote letters to our senators and representatives today. I am truly disappointed. This seemed, and Greg, I'm going to lift your words because you have introduced me to the idea of a Scribner's error. And for the past 2 years on what should have been a Scribner's error has cost this district approximately $250,000 in not going into the non-lapsing fund. And it is one where it creates a difference between what municipalities are able to do and what regional school districts are able to do. So it is one I do encourage the board to please reach out to our representatives to let them know that this is something that in our mind is not fair. It's not equitable and should be corrected. We really thought that this doesn't cost the state any money.
Right.
And so this was something that we thought would really, and Greg Kava and Nicole Grant both spoke at on behalf of the bill. And it really had a great deal amount of support. So I think it was the other things that were being attached and put into the bill that ultimately led to its defeat. Is there anything you want to say?
Well, I got two different views of it. One was that it got into a bill with other stuff attached, but another, I think it got left on the cutting room floor, which happens a lot at the end of sessions. If there's a bunch of things that are problematic about a bill, and remember what happens is a bill has multiple topics in it. So all of a sudden you start with a single bill introduced and then 18 things get added to it. And so there's a whole bunch of laws being changed by the bill. And if some get problematic, it can often cause the bill to languish and then finally just die on the floor. And they'll bring it back in the next session or in the special session that follows. It's unfortunate, but that's what legislation goes through. I think we really need perhaps we need a bigger push. We need effective lobbying up there to say, look, this has to pass. And it would be nice if they could pass it early in the session before the end, so it doesn't get held hostage to the desire to get out of Hartford. And I can understand it. These guys have been there. These men and women have been there for weeks, and they're working hard, and they're putting in grotesquely long hours for virtually almost no compensation. And yet they continue to do it. And unfortunately, sometimes these things happen, but I know that they'll, I know that I know that on the merits, this bill is popular. If we can just keep this bill by itself, that might help. But we'll see. We'll keep working on it. Okay, John, Treasurer's report.
Yeah, I agree with you, Greg. That bill, if it was standalone, it would have been a done deal, but they piggyback charter school funding and different things that didn't even relate necessarily to the from 1% to 2%. It would have been statute by now if that was as simple as that. So maybe we can get our legislators, that represent, well, it's for all the schools anyway, all the, the regional schools. We've got to get all those representatives to just present a bill that's straightforward, yes or no, from 1% to 2%. Anyway, just a couple of thoughts on the May budget ledger. We finished the end of May at 8.07% under budget. That left a balance of $1,840,000, and that was after we moved the $228,000 into the 1%. So the 1% fund now has a pretty healthy balance of about $1.2 million, and our capital, our schools capital non-recurring, the elementary school fund, has a balance of $168,000. So both of those funds are in pretty good position. One thing, and I got this from Megan's, I started to check it out from Megan's weekly update. The good news is, even though the 1% statute didn't occur, the state agricultural tuition grant was increased for the 2022-2023 state fiscal year. So that was increased by $1,000 from 4,200 to 5,200. And I just asked Sue about the population. So that's going to mean $124,000 more coming into this district for the VOAG program, which is really phenomenal. So you can call your congressman and thank them for that. So.
Great. Thank you, John. All right, we'll go to committee reports. Mary, anything you want to tell us about
There's
CABE?
not much. Today was the legislative wrap up, and I thought maybe we'd get some more information on the 1%. And the only other thing that's coming up Thursday, August 5th at 2:30 in the afternoon to 7:15 in the evening is the Summer Leadership Conference. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mike, your last curriculum and education programming committee.
My last one. Today we did have a meeting, and item C on your agenda, we heard about a little bit about our COVID response, and yes, the state is requiring a reopening plan again for the 21-22 school year. And unfortunately, our plans are still in flux because the state and the CDC's plans are still in flux. So you heard a little bit about that. I have a feeling you're going to be hearing more about it at the beginning of the next school year. But the planning that Megan and her administrative team has undergone has been phenomenal. I think we're in a good position for hopefully a return to normal next school year, or as close as we can get. We also talked a little bit about the ESSER monies, which are the federal relief monies that amount to something like $250,000. Some districts across the state get millions and millions of dollars, but Little Region 12, we get 250 over 3 years. But those monies, again, I think are being very intelligently invested into our youngest students through a summer enrichment camp that they can attend free of charge, and hoping to get improved school readiness, and also funding some tutors for the coming school year. I think that's money wisely spent. And I thank the rest of the committee for a great year, despite all the challenges. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Alex, finance and operations.
Finance and operations. We met on the 7th. We went through the monthly financials They were a little skewed because we hadn't received the bank statements yet. So Nicole worked them through through the 7th. The numbers were slightly skewed because things like the health insurance were artificially swayed because we already paid the June's premium, which we normally wouldn't have done. So anyway, as all of you are aware, due to the COVID, that we kept a lot of the doors open in our buildings, and our fuel costs for the year were much higher than we had hoped for. The good news is we're not buying any more heating oil right now, any more fuel right now. So as was said before, the 1% fund was funded $228,084. We, in Don O'Leary's absence, Megan sent out the 5-year facilities plan update back through 2018. We have not really discussed it in the meeting, but there are a lot of things on it that are crossed off because they've been done. So that's very encouraging. As you're aware, we put out RFPs, request for pricing, to do 5 major projects. The first batch of 3 were put out, and we have accepted 2, the roof and the was it the water tank? And the water tank. We did not accept the offer. We got 1 bid on the garage. We felt it was too high, and we're looking for alternatives to that. We also put out RFPs for let me remember, the windows and the heating systems around the windows. We did not get a response for anybody on the windows, but there was one company that was still working on it, and will probably come in with a proposal. Since we didn't get any other proposals, we are allowed to then consider that proposal. It wouldn't be a conflict or because no one else had submitted. We got a good bid on the heating system. Don O'Leary, who's today was his first day back, has not had a chance to really dig through it yet. But I'm optimistic that we'll be able to work out something with that company. We're going to be talking about this in a few minutes about encumbering the ventilation system. Let me explain what that is. The paint room in the new agri-science building was not designed with a ventilation system. And it requires a very complicated system because we're talking about having a product in there that can be very toxic. So we are going to have to put that ventilation system in for $138,000. Who's going to pay for it is still up in the air. Whether it's going to come out of our pocket, some out of the state's pocket, some out of the architect's pocket, who's going to be responsible for it. But because we don't know that, Nicole wants to put an encumbrance of that amount, much like we did with the riding ring, when the board voted to have a riding ring and they would fund it if we went over budget. Nicole had to encumber that money. At the end of the period, we never used it, so it became unencumbered. Hopefully that will be the situation with this. The other thing that we discussed was the cafeteria plan. As many of you are aware, we're going with a new company next year. Part of what formats you have to adhere to, there's a state format or a federal format. We have not opted to enter either of these formats in the past years, and we're recommending not to go in it again. Part of the reason for not going in it is all we get out, we're pretty much doing it anyway. and all we get is 6 cents a meal. So it'd be about $3,000, which we would not get. We would go to the new company that is supplying our food. So for 1 year, we thought, why change two things in the same year and not know which is having an effect on the other, just to change the supplier of the food this year and then revisit the issue next year. Just so you know, the board, the committee voted unanimously to recommend that to the full board. And also they recommended on a 100% unanimous vote to recommend encumbering the money for the ventilation system. And that is what I've got.
Thank you very much. Alex, is there any truth to the rumor that the bid for the roof came in significantly under where we expected to be? We were thinking that was going to cost, what, $1,700,000, and it came in at $1.1 million and change, or $1.2 million? Somewhere.
The bids came in very favorably, the three that we're taking.
Okay.
Well, the two that we're taking and the one we may take after
Right.
Don's review.
Right. Good. Excellent work. Okay. I'm sorry. Mike and then Jen.
Alex, I just wanted to ask you, I seem to remember a recent board meeting where we were talking about how we entered into a contract with CABE for food service. Is that correct, Nicole?
In advance.
At Advance. Okay.
That's right.
So I'm just wondering, I see that we're going to be looking at CABE. The two organizations are totally separate from one another. Okay, so it's no conflict of interest.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jen.
Just curiosity.
So we have a welders workshop, is that correct?
Welding shop.
And it's not in use at the moment, from what I heard. Have we heard about that at all?
Happy to talk about that.
That would be great. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So what Jen is talking about is the plugs are the wrong ones for the machines that we have. So at this point, we need to either purchase adapters or redesign the sockets that are in there. I know that Don had a conversation with the architect. They felt.
And this is off the new agri-science section,
This
correct?
is the new agri-science section, yes.
So we have a brand new welding shop that we're not using.
We are not utilizing.
So is there a plan on when we can get those outlets situated so that we can get the students in the classroom?
They're in the classroom. They're not able to perform all of the functions that that classroom introduces to them. So there's definitely an urgency.
So is there a outline of a plan? I mean, is it going to be taken care of by September, or?
I'm going to tell you, it will definitely be taken care of by September. I think this is a moment in which we are trying to make some people accountable versus at some point it's just, let's make the fix. We'll pay the money and then we'll figure out who to point fingers out afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to happen.
Because I just think that it's a shame that we have a beautiful facility and not allowing the students access for whatever and whose fault it is. I would just like to see that be something that gets rectified before the school year.
Nope. Keith, did I capture that well?
I don't think I would have said it any different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. If no other questions, then Jim, your ultimate report as Chair of Labor Negotiations.
We are currently negotiating with the custodians. We're currently negotiating with the custodians and the nurses. We've had at least one meeting with each group. We've had meetings that were scheduled at this time, these days, which have been canceled by the other side. We do have another session with the custodians later this month. I guess there's a question as to, once July 1st comes around, whether certain members of the committee can remain on the committee as members of the public, since they'll no longer be members of the Board of Ed. But other than that, the negotiations are going forward. I know we're trying to finish them this month. I don't know if that will happen.
Julie, strategic long-range planning.
Yeah, we have not had a meeting since our last board meeting, but I do just have a tiny update. And that is, I got this today, which is the design of the Burnham School sign. And I think it looks quite nice. We have the Region 12 on the bottom, beautiful shape. We've designated where the sign will go, so it is progressing and I hope to see it up soon. So I'll pass this along. I don't think anyone else has seen this yet, so if you want to just pass it around, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Well, we'll move on to action items. Withdraw Region 12 membership for CABE for school year 2021 to 2022. Who wants to take that one?
So I brought before Greg, it is time regarding renewal of our CABE membership. And CABE is the representative body for boards of education. My curiosity, I know that there are some districts who are pulling away from CABE. And rather than making a decision or to really bring it up before the board on your feeling on whether or not and how you would like to renew for next year's CABE membership. We have shifted our policies over to Shipman and Goodwin at this time. So it's a question of the value that the board sees. It does cost us approximately $10,000 for this membership. What is my opinion?
Well, Megan, let me.
I was going to say.
You and I have had a lot. You and I have had a lot of discussions about this. CABE offers several services to us. One of them is policies. That's the primary thing that we've been doing, but we no longer use them for policies. Another service that they offer, they're basically there to lobby the legislature on behalf of boards of education. I imagine that happens, and there are certain issues that are up there, but boy, on the one issue that mattered most to us, I don't know that there was a lot of work done on that. But look, I mean, you don't know everything they do, but you know, that's one other thing that they do for us. Another thing they do is they have leadership training and they have meetings. Their annual meetings are absolutely terrific. And anyone who's never been to a CABE annual meeting, I mean, even if we no longer belong, we can still go, pay more money, but you can still go. I would advise going. It's really a tremendous experience to go to one of these things. That's a terrific service that they provide. They have other services. They pass information on from the state. They've conducted a chairs roundtable. They try to keep people in the loop. They do a variety of functions, but the primary thing of the dollars is the policies. And if we're going to pay $10,000 so that we can go to a few meetings and get some lobbying, we were trying to decide if that was the most effective use of our funds. And so that's the reason why we brought it up. You know, is this organization really worth the money that we're paying for it? Because I can think of some uses for $10,000. So that was really the impetus behind it. Megan and I were tossing it around, and we thought we'd bring it to you. We could do a variety of things. We could pull out. We could stay in but register our discontent, or whatever. There's a lot of different things we could do, but I thought we shouldn't really proceed any further until we had you guys weigh in and tell us what you want to do. Lisa, do I have a recommendation? I don't know. I mean, I did the other day. I mean, I mean, there was I advanced several things. I said, one, we could just leave. Two, we could leave noisily. Three, we could stay, but tell them we're reevaluating next year if we don't get better service. Or we could get someone from the board involved in the leadership of CABE and put in untold, uncompensated hours. And maybe we could, get a better organization from within. So those are our options. And I said, the last option is the best, as long as it's someone other than me who does it, because I don't think I have the time. But, the organization is potentially incredibly valuable. It's just that I haven't been as thrilled with it as others. I know that Lisa had a question, then Jen, and then Jim.
No, I'm just wondering, is this the same reason the other regions have pulled out as well? Or is there more to it? Or is there a feeling of discontent for the same reason?
I think similar reasons that we're feeling. So it's the support question and what the value is. And again, if the board sees value, then it is the board's representative.
$10,000 is a lot of money. So that we can maybe go to the conference, which it sounds like that's where we are right now. And we could pay extra to go to the conference. I did go to the CABE conference a couple of years ago, and I did find it invaluable. It was wonderful, great advice, and I learned a lot. But if we could still do that and not have to pay $10,000 for what we're getting, then that would be my vote.
Okay, Jen, and then Jim.
So when you say there are other regions and districts pulling out, or is it a large number of regions and districts? Is it 4 or is it 15? I mean, I'm just trying to get a gauge of how many districts are feeling the same. I guess did you unmute me? Did someone unmute me?
Okay. So how many districts are we talking that are considering it?
I know districts who have, if I was to put a number on it,
it's hard.
About a dozen.
Yeah.
And a lot of districts utilize them for the policy services.
Yeah.
And they do put out policy. A lot of the districts who have gone away is because they're not utilizing the policy. And if you're not doing that, the question is, how do you, and this is truly an organization that you're going to get out of what you put into. So this is not a disparaging remark, but it is to say, do we have value as a board in this organization? And if we do, then that's money well spent. But if it's something that we are passive in our participation, if we're not feeling that their guidance, or we're not feeling they are our voice when it comes to some lobbying, then at that point, that is what I'm asking the board to consider.
So I guess the question is well, not the question, but so if there are other districts other than us that are feeling this way and it financially hits them where it hurts, then it will really force them, without us needing to be vocal about it, how they need to reassess how they run their organization. And if they were not our voice when we needed them up at the Capitol, and we certainly collectively, there was plenty of our own people that were putting their own skin in the game, so to speak. I mean, I think $10,000 is a lot of money. I guess my question is that we can always choose to join again if we choose not to do it now. So we could say not right now. And then if there's reasons that they start really going, okay, we can recess this, then we can see maybe there's value in participating and getting more bang for our buck, so to speak, if we choose to. Because it does seem like a lot of money for not.
I'll make a motion that Region 12 withdraw its membership from CABE for the school year 2021, 2022.
Second.
Could I just ask one more question before we vote? Shipman and Goodwin is managing and overseeing our policies right now. What does that cost? Do you know? Anybody know roughly?
Nicole, I believe it was 7,000. If it's okay with the board, rather than me giving a number, if it's okay if I email you the but I can
Right,
tell you that.
Well, no, but I
it
think
is-
John wants to know before he votes.
Oh, I can understand that, but I'm going to say to you, it is
Okay,
cheaper to
but-
utilize their
but
services.
In reality, if we continue with CABE, part of that 10,000 is for policy management and oversight. Is that correct?
No, there's an additional.
There's an additional cost?
You pay an additional $1,300.
Say that again?
You pay an additional $13.
We pay an additional $1,300 for policy management on their website.
But we're not paying that now to CABE? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. We switched to Shipman for next year.
So that helps.
Alex.
As I understand it, one of the reasons we switched to Shipman and Goodwin was we were finding when we got the CABE policies that we were rewriting a lot of them. It just didn't quite fit us. So I think it was a good, I mean, it's not like we could leave Shipman and Goodwin and just go back to CABE 100% because I mean, I don't know if it was Jim or who did it, but a lot of the policies had to get rewritten. They just didn't fit.
Well, there was another problem, which is that I cannot tell you the number of times when the policy committee would report and I would ask a legal question or Jim would ask a legal question. And the answer is, well, CABE has vetted this. Their lawyers have vetted it. And I said, yeah, but their lawyers don't represent us. They're in-house CABE people. So what we're getting is a policy that may or may not be right. And I don't want to take that risk. So a couple of times we had to punt difficult policies to our counsel. Whereas when you have your law firm providing the policy advice, it's a lot different. You can just ask the question and get the answer. And I think that's, I was a bit disappointed with their policies because frankly, I thought they were cumbersome, long. There was too much in them. It was like one of my speeches. And let me tell you something, when you do this, you recognize that in these things. So yeah, Mary first and then Lisa and Jim.
I went to the conferences on the CABE liaison, and the fact that they're located diagonally across the state from us, and it takes us hours to get there, is a reason why we don't participate like we used to when they were in Waterbury, and we could just run over there and go to meetings and go to presentations. So, and the fact that they even have the conference way down in the corner of the state is kind of strange to me instead of in the center. So I think the fact that we can still go to the conference is what sways me to say, let's go ahead and leave, because they haven't done much for us. Even when I asked them about immunizations and testifying, I mean, I was asked to testify by the Secretary Cardona. That's who asked me to testify when I asked about it. And since we can still go, and we still have a Connecticut Board of Education that we can go to for information, I think that that it's a good idea to leave.
Lisa? Yes.
Just to piggyback on what you were saying, Greg, I was on when Michelle Gora was on the board and she was chair, I was on her policies committee. And I can't tell you how many hours that she spent just as an individual. Were you on that committee too, Jen? Yep. And then all of us going over line by line to only then bring it before the board, like you were saying, for you to say, we're
Crap all
going
over
to our lawyers. So I remember hours of that, which when we stopped doing that, I was so thankful. So yeah, it makes much more sense. And it sounds like we're saving money, but yeah, that was inevitably, we always rewrote them. Yeah, huge. And Michelle, that was, I mean, she did it for years. So.
Oh, no, I mean, I think the policy committee really killed themselves. I mean, they were just
Right.
absolutely all over this, and it was an
Right.
enormous amount of work. And then at the end of the day, we had all these long policies, and I was
Right.
convinced it's like the federal code of regulations. They would fill entire walls. I would be half of this room would be filled with federal regulation. I guarantee you're going to violate
Right.
3 of them on the way home.
Well, and then we would know, we would go over one and then they'd come out with a revision. So it was a little bit maddening. So, yeah.
I do find shipments to be more succinct, and I think that's helpful. Sometimes less is more. Jim?
I was just gonna say, just following up on what Jen was saying, I assume that when you tell them this tomorrow, they're gonna say, come on, and they're gonna do whatever it takes. And you say,
You let us down on this lobbying thing. We needed you. You didn't do squat for us. There's a special session coming up. Show us something, or, next year, if you do a job for us, we'll come back, but you didn't do anything for us with regard to the lobbying effort to get this bill passed. Let us see you do something. If 12 school systems are leaving, or they got to sit up and take notice of that. I assume.
One would hope. Anything further? Julie?
Just, I may have missed this, but I just think it's important when we withdraw that we do give them very specific and direct feedback, because I think it is a good organization to have statewide. And it sounds like they've just missed the mark, but if we're good about telling them what they've done wrong, not just the recent stuff, but through the years, I think that would be really important to do.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, that was the thing that was troubling me, is that we would be, if we just withdrew and said nothing, how does it improve it? And if the alternative is to have someone spend basically 6 years of their life, down there trying to whip them into shape, that isn't very plausible either. I think you're right. I think we should let them know why we are disappointed. Part of the problem with any large organization like that is you get into your own little bubble, and you know what you have to do, you know what you're trying to do, and you forget, is that really what my membership needs? And I don't think, and I think part of the problem is we're not as active as we should be. If we were more active when we were there pulling, yelling and screaming about things, I think we'd get a better response from them. I think if we went to meetings and said, really, your lobbying effort is not acceptable to us, or we think we need more, I think we'd get a better organization. So maybe we're a little bit at fault. So before we take the momentous vote, which I have a sense is going to be almost unanimous to withdraw, do we want to withdraw, or do we want to give it one more chance, but make our unhappiness be known that they've got a year to whip themselves into shape, or we're out, or you just want to leave? I don't have a dog in this hunt.
And if we have the option.
If we have the option to go back in a year, I think sometimes you have to learn a hard lesson. And if they revamp their current situation, and I mean, $10,000 is a lot to just say, well, give them one more year.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion, which is to withdraw Region 12 membership from CABE, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, don't raise your hands, just say aye. All those opposed and all those abstaining. It's unanimous. We're out. Okay, action item number 2. To consider, and I got to read this because it's awful. I would accept a motion to consider, pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 10-215F, if the Board of Education declines to certify that all food items offered for sale to students in the Region 12 schools will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. So do we want to have a motion to decline to certify?
So, second.
Okay, let's talk about it, because there's a reason. There's some method to this madness. For years, every single year, we did decline to participate. But there's going to be a reason why we might want to participate. And I don't know, Nicole, if you want to take it through the details, but the primary reason is that when we have the Ed Connection doing or whatever they're called now, Ed Advance doing the cafeteria, they're going to comply with these. Their program is going to comply. But there's one concern we have, which is, what if somebody gets bent out of shape because they can't bring in cupcakes during the day or something. I mean, that's really the issue. So if you guys want to explain all the details, we can get through it. The other thing you need to know is that Ed Advance, not this year, but next year, if we decline again, they're going to start charging us an extra $3,000, which is what they lose from our not doing it. So we're going to, it's one way or another.
Yeah, but Greg, while Megan's getting organized, but that wouldn't be this year.
No, it wouldn't be this year, it'd be next year. So we could decline this year and would suffer no financial problem.
What's going to be followed anyway?
Well, it's going to be followed anyway, but the concern that we had is that we'd really like to give them a year to build up. Their food's going to be a lot better than anything anyone's ever had here. I mean, their food is really terrific, and it's going to be, the kids are going to love it. But the question is, do we really want to have both transitions going on at the same time? Because until people realize they love it, they might be concerned about some of the little side issues on this thing. Who wants to start?
I just took a lot of effort to get you juice. So. Okay. So I think, Greg, you encapsulated some of our challenge. We don't want to change too many variables at once is really what the recommendation is, to continue to not participate in the nutrition program. I can tell you as a former principal, one of my huge frustrations was things like if we did any kind of a sales in which food was involved. So meaning if we did cookie dough sales, I could not hand out the cookie dough until half hour after school let out. So there were different restrictions, pizza parties that you wanted to have in the school. If you collected money from the parents, the school could not collect the money because you couldn't have the pizza party. So there are different requirements because they have very strict standards for nutritional, what is being given to students. So sometimes that puts a stranglehold on some celebrations. And again, for us, we haven't had the need. We don't get a lot of reimbursements. We did not have a lot of lunches. So this is a nice way to hold constant the variable as we begin to change over to Ed Advance.
I mean, we could have kale and celery parties, but
That sounds awesome.
AgriScience will be there for us if we do that.
Megan?
Yes.
I know Washington Primary, and I know Bridgewater does it too. Twice a week they have, well, not during COVID, of course, but they have hot lunches for the kids. That would be affected by this?
That would be affected by this. This was something, and this year they were not allowed to have those special lunches this year because of COVID.
Right.
So we definitely were able to service, but Nicole, you look like you're chomping at the bit. Huh?
They're not going to be able to do that next year. Even if you don't, even if you decline. Why? Because we're running it.
So,
Do you want to go up to the podium? That computer is on.
Can I ask a question? I just need clarification. I am unmuted. I am. That's fine.
Nicole, are you recommending this?
I'm recommending that we decline for
Right.
the coming school year, yes.
Okay.
But I think it's important to understand why.
I understand, so.
You have to understand how this program works going forward.
So the healthy food certification, which is what this program is called, that we're asking to decline again because we have declined in the past. The National School Lunch Program has a set of standards for nutrition that we follow regardless if we adopt this healthy food certification. This is stricter because it applies to things that happen outside of our cafeterias. Our cafeterias already comply with nutrition standards. This applies to things that happen outside. As Superintendent Bennett said, you can't deliver the cookie dough until half an hour after school closes. It affects our vending machines, our ability to do parties, and our ability to charge students for food. So when Ed Advance comes in next year, what we talked about them doing was attempting to comply to see how that would fit for us. But we're not going to be required to comply if the board declines to adopt this tonight. So that if it doesn't work for us, we know that we've established it doesn't work for us and we can continue to decline year to year. Ed Advance is giving up income from the federal government, the federal grants, by us not adopting this policy. So they may look to charge us as we move forward after this year if we say, no, we're going to decline and they have given up revenue. It's always been our decision to give up the revenue. Now we're making a decision to give up their revenue because they've taken over our program. So that's where they may charge us back what they lose by us not implementing this. And that will be an annual decision for the board for what works best for our district. But Jen, to your point about what's going on at the elementary schools, Burnham and Washington, that was because there was no food available to those schools. This year, we've provided the food down to the elementary schools, and Ed Advance will continue to do that. So what that means is those schools have now become sponsors of the National School Lunch Program. So regardless of what you do here tonight, you still have to follow the rules of the National School Lunch Program. And the rules of this National School Lunch Program will prohibit us from allowing the PTO to sell during meal times where the National School Lunch Program is serving.
Mike?
Nicole, would evening programs where student organizations are selling food at like a winter carnival, or there's a sporting event and we have a food truck that comes in, those would be unaffected because they happen after the school day?
Correct.
Lisa, and then Jen.
I'm not sure I understand. So how would we feed the kids? Or like I guess I'm just confused. I'm sorry.
With respect to our elementary schools?
Well, like I'm just thinking of Chapag just because I'm here, but just like you were just saying, I'm sorry.
How soon they forget.
But Mike was just saying, like, how would that work for special events? Like,
so
in regards to food?
So if we decline to adopt this healthy food certification, nothing changes next year at all.
Okay.
If we do adopt the healthy food certification in years that come, and we can talk about that more in depth if we decide to make that decision, there are exemptions and you can opt. If I thought the board were going to adopt this tonight, which, after coming out of the Finance and Operations Committee, we thought that we would probably decline again.
Okay.
There would be 2 more motions you would have to adopt. This would be one action item, and there would be 2 that follows that said, yes, we've adopted it, but we're also going to elect to take exemptions.
Okay.
And those exemptions would cover the kinds of things that you're talking about.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
And just so that I'm clear, because I just need a little clarification too, but if we're talking about the elementary school, so that do participate in the hot lunch twice a week, next year they have to, they can't be exempt. Or we can buy.
You
They can't.
cannot sell lunch from other sources in your buildings during meal service times, regardless of this, because we became sponsors.
But those 2 days, but if the other 3 days at the elementary schools, if they wanted to have a pizza party and it wasn't those 2 days, could they do that?
You can always have a pizza party anytime, but you can't charge the students for it.
Got it.
So where the PTO is bringing in meals, but the parents were paying the PTO a set fee for those meals, that can no longer happen. So it's not that the kids can't enjoy a pizza party or a special pasta day or a special family style meal day outside of the National School Lunch Program. and they don't eat from the cafeteria that day, they can't pay for that. It has to be sponsored by someone else, a different source of income.
So if the parents donate the money to the PTO, the PTO can provide the pizza.
Yeah.
But if the parents give their children the money,
I understand. That's
can't
great.
do it.
Yep, that helps. Okay.
Makes a
Thank
lot
you.
of sense, but,
Well, I needed to like get the visual, so, yeah. Okay.
oh, no, I'm just saying, it's crazy, so don't feel bad. Oh, I'm sorry. Mary and then Mike.
I know that the PTOs are not gonna be happy. The kids really like the products that they bring in. They bring in Washington Pizza, and I think the cod balls come from GW Tavern, and and they really like that, and it's very well received. So I'm really wondering
can
how
say
that's
that
gonna
the-
go over with our
The
PTOs.
meals that we've brought into our schools this year were also very well received. So I think that the PTO, I can't speak for the PTO, but they may welcome the fact that they don't have to do this twice a week. They could do their special events less often, but still let the kids enjoy those events. And like Greg said, as long as they did it through PTO donations and not charging each individual student, that's something that can still take place.
I don't think that I'll mention it to any of the PTOs.
Mike? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to remind the board that we adopted a policy a few years earlier that's fairly strict about food that's served during the school day. It was a concern about food sensitivities and allergies that students would have. So it can happen. It's just that the principal needs to approve any type of food use. So, classroom parties that center around food. We actually had the school nurses in. They supported the idea of banning the use of food as kind of like a central component of education. So just it will still be fairly regulated because of that policy.
Okay.
The other thing that I think is really important for the board to think about is that we do have food insecurities in our district. And by being able to bring the National School Food Program into our elementary schools, we're addressing kids with food insecurities. And that wasn't necessarily happening with the other means by which we provided food to our students. So there will be no outward obvious indication of a child who may have a food insecurity. Now kids are going to get school lunch, and they're all going to get school lunch together if they choose to, or they can bring it from their parents. But people aren't going to be singled out by their ability to bring great food in from home, or to be able to buy from a PTO when they may not have that ability.
We have someone who's here on Zoom that would like to add something. And normally we don't have discussion from the public and pass the thing, but I'm going to say, go ahead. Jess, can you unmute yourself? Great.
Thank you so much for letting me speak. I have 2 children at Washington Primary School, or I will next year. And I will tell you that there are very strong feelings from the parents and the PTO about hot lunch returning, just if that influences you. And in terms of the food insecurities, as a PTO member, we don't have access to the kids who get free hot lunch, but there are kids who receive free hot lunch from the PTO. And for the most part, many parents will round up. So we make a little bit of extra money for the PTO, but for the most part, it is not a fundraiser. It is a break-even event, at least at Washington Primary School. So I just wanted to share that with you guys so you had a little bit more insight from the parents' perspective. I think if you're going to make a decision like this, it might be something that the community has some strong feelings on, and might be nice to kick back to them if you can wait an extra year. That may be beneficial. Just my take. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that was our thought. I think our thought is that rather than make the change that might put restrictions on us, we would get through a year to see whether or not there was, buy-in, whether or not the food program they were providing was something that people liked before we decided to go that route. But anyway, okay. Nicole, do you have anything else to add?
Not unless anyone has questions.
I'd like to make a motion.
It's already been made. The motion made and seconded to decline to participate or decline to certify, Okay, is there any further discussion? All right, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of motion to decline to certify, which means we're going to take that one more year not participating, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, it's unanimous. Third item under action items, to consider and if appropriate, approve the encumbrance for the ventilation system in the finishing room in the metal shops, $138,000. Could I have a motion to approve that, to put that on the table?
I will make that motion.
Okay, a second?
Seconded.
All right, moved and seconded. Let's talk about it now. I mean, I know this is, believe me, no one is more frustrated than I am about this whole thing. We had a set of plans prepared that showed this room with no ventilation. We had a second set of plans prepared that showed this room with no ventilation, and the room was built with no ventilation. This is after we had a ed spec that said that the finishing room will be, we're going to have a fire and explosion proof safe for the finishes that will be used in the finishing room. And still, we got no ventilation designed into it. It makes no bloody sense. There's only, I mean, believe me, you don't need an explosive cabinet to protect yourself from water paints. We're talking about paints with volatile organic compounds like varnishes, stains, oil-based, alkyd-based paints. These things give off toxic fumes if you breathe them in. And in order for us to, and the whole idea is, yeah, if everybody could go outside to do all their finishing, it wouldn't be so bad. But if you're going to finish inside in the winter with the doors closed, you need ventilation. And it wasn't designed into there. And so what we believe, in order to get the proper use of the facility, we need this. And so the point is, we're going to approve it. We're going to send it to the state as a change order, and they may approve it. And if they do, the state will pay 80% of it. But if they don't, we need to be prepared to write the check, because we need to have kids go into that finishing room on August, whatever school starts next year, and use it. They need to be painting away in that room with the proper ventilation. And so we don't want to take a chance, and that's why we're encumbering the funds. The good news is, last time we had we encumbered, what was it, $280,000 for the riding ring, and we managed to fit it in the budget. So you're basically less than half. Again, Pete.
It seems inappropriate that we would have a rule
Microphone.
using materials that are toxic or flammable or what have you. And in this day and age, why would we be using components or materials like this when there are others available that don't possess the detrimental aspect of what you are in essence proposing to use?
Well, Pete, I don't know, but I wish we still had the teacher here, because, but do we still have?
We do.
We do.
Hi, Pete.
Pete, can you tell us why you use anything other than water-based paints and solvents?
Do you want to go up to the podium?
I mean, I know the answer to this, but I would rather have the expert answer it.
So for the finishing room in the shops for student projects, while the national and state of Connecticut curriculum does not have a lot of finishing work, most of the curriculum-based assignments that we'll be doing in the three various shops will create a finished product for the students that we hope to have them be able to take home, sell, or continue their skill-based knowledge with how that can help them in future years. While it is agri-science and we're getting into the complexities of it, that alone, teaching the students how to stay safe with these chemicals, that in their future years, they may not have the option to choose an alternative, is one of many reasons why I would definitely be asking that we're prepared to teach them the right and correct way to stay safe in these situations.
I'm missing something. Not sure I understand. If I was creating an environment,
No, but Pete, when you go to work for someone and that person says, oh no, I don't believe in those water-based finishes. We're using, you're using real oil stain and we're going to put varnish on it, or we're going to put polyurethane on it.
right?
Those are all, they all throw off volatile organics. And so in order to protect themselves in the future, they need to be able to learn how to do it. And part of that's using those products as part of the learning of it, because they're going to have to use them in the future, almost certainly. I mean, perfectly honest, I do a lot of that kind of stuff. And I will tell you that the water-based products are good for some things and not so good for others.
So Pete, one of the things that we have found out that the ventilation system actually it circulates once for every 60 seconds. And recognizing that we're keeping children in a trap room, I wouldn't have students do an art project in a room like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's reliant on negative pressure coming into the room.
No, actually what it
Okay,
is.
go up to unmute.
They put in a ventilating system. After we made a row about it, they put in a ventilation system. It was about $15,000 and it's inadequate. It will exchange the air in the room once every 60 seconds or something like that, which is not adequate to remove the fumes, and therefore they can overcome you in that room. The way the room was originally designed, it had no ventilation at all. So what it was dependent on is there being negative pressure in the wood shop so that air would get sucked out from under the door and out through the ventilation in the wood shop. I mean, I don't know. I've seen some, I mean, maybe that's state of the art in design, but it doesn't seem to me to be state of the art in design. And that's how it was designed originally. So
what you're saying is that we are going to be using materials that are, yes, toxic.
well, we do that all the time. We've been doing it in school for centuries. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of stuff in that chemistry lab are toxic. A lot of toxic stuff they handle in chemistry. It's the nature of the beast. The toxic doesn't have to be dangerous. The whole idea is if you handle it safely, it's not. And I think that's the idea. I think that's what they're trying to teach them, as to how to safely handle the kind of chemicals you're going to have to use. I mean, it's, think about it. I hate to tell you, but there are certain beverages that are pretty low in pH, and if you disposed of them, they might be considered hazardous. I mean, there's a lot of, vinegar is an acid. So think about it. There's a lot of things that we use in everyday life that are potentially toxic.
I'm not adverse to the ventilation system. It just seems.
No, I understand. You're worried. Should we be exposing them to these things? And the answer is it's part of the curriculum because we think we should. Because otherwise they may injure themselves later because don't know how to safely handle them. When inevitably they're put in that position because boss says that's what we use. Mary.
So that they, in essence, the fact that they've put in this cheaper ventilation system, they already have kind of said that they knew that they were wrong when they didn't put it.
No, it's a little more complicated than that. I think what they had there was a misinterpretation or not understanding of exactly what we were going to do. Were we going to hand spray? Were we going to hand paint or with a brush, or were we going to spray anything? And the problem is once you start even using cans of spray paint, that puts the paint and puts the volatile organics into the air. It atomizes them. And when that happens, you need more robust ventilation to take it out. And I think that was the idea, that it was not, one of the things that literature says is that the ed specs are designed to communicate between the owner of the project and the architect. And we thought they were clear, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. All I know is that we want to make sure that ventilation system gets put in there so that next fall or the end of the summer, we can open that building and have full use. Yes, sir.
And I would just like to add for the board, I was present for one of the meetings with the engineer and the architect, where I was led to believe the current setup with the additional circulating fan, whatever you want to call it, that was already installed is inadequate for the basic hand staining of wood products for finishing.
Inadequate for hand staining.
Inadequate, yes. So the use of aerosol sprays was something they had not considered. They did tell me that they considered the use of finishing wood products with hand stains and that space was inadequate as built to do that process. So I have not had students use that room at all this year because the engineer for the design firm told me that it was inadequate.
John?
And even for this upgrade, there's still limitations. There's still things you can't use. Is that correct?
It is my understanding that is correct, yes.
The primary thing they can't use is they can't use a real heavy duty spray type of thing where you're using, you know, pressurized paint sprayers and things like that. And yeah, like you would paint a car, and that's something that I don't think that was intended we were going to use anyway. So that, and I think that's where the confusion lay. I think the confusion was is they said, oh, well, you're not using these, you know, these big paint spraying machines, so you know we don't have to worry about aerosols. And you know what people forget is those little cans that you shake and spray are aerosols. Always these issues when you're trying to get a program up and running off the ground, but we hope to get this thing going. We've made it clear that everything is going to be open for business and there's not going to be interruptions commencing in when we open school. Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion?
Yeah.
Pete?
Okay, so you're proposing that we spend $138,000.
No, I'm proposing that we encumber $138,000. So if for whatever reason it's not in the ag science budget, because we're running out of runway there on that budget. We're almost done, but we're running out of runway. So if there's not any money in the ag science budget to do it, then the school board has to pay for it, is basically what we're saying. And that's why we encumber it, because we're going to have extra funds. And rather than send those funds back to the towns, you know, where they say, why didn't you encumber the funds so you didn't have to hit us up for higher taxes in the future? I mean, the idea is when you have extra money laying around, encumber it so you can get what you need and not have to, you know, have tax bills that go up. Okay. Anything further? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? It is you. I'm sorry? Yeah, we did. Okay. All right. We have the fourth item. I think this one may be a little bit easier for you, but maybe not. To consider and if approve a field trip request to Radio City Music Hall, New York City on December 2nd, 2021 for grades 6 through 12. Discussion? Pete?
Is that daytime?
Yes, it is a daytime trip. It is to see the show, the Christmas show. It's the most normal thing that I've asked for this year. Obviously, it is going to be dependent on the conditions, but at this point, we'd like to reserve tickets and move forward with our planning.
So is that the whole school?
It's
All of,
no.
or is that wrong?
No, it's in the music. So those who, the performance for the choir.
Okay, so these are choir students in the choir, grades 6 through 12. Okay, with that little amendment, okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Thank you all very much. Now, do I have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing superintendent evaluation for school year 2020 to 2021 and to discuss non-certified, non-union staff increases for 2021 to 2022? And we would invite, at least for part of this session, the superintendent. You need anyone else?
No.
All right, so it's moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? We're going to go into executive session. I guess.